Hello, government students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 3, Section 4 State Constitutions and Local Charters. So follow along. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about proposing and ratifying amendments to the Constitution. The big thing here is to remember your fractions of all things. We're going to talk math. Proposing an amendment requires that you have two-thirds, and that's the fraction that we need to remember here, two-thirds vote of each house of Congress. So if we were looking at the U.S. Senate, where there's 100 members, you would need at least 67 of them. Or if we're talking about the House of Representatives, where there's over 435, you would need 290 to get that two-thirds majority. Okay, you could also call a national convention of the states, or at the request of the states. And you would need two-thirds of the states to do so. In other words, 33 states. So two-thirds is the key to proposing an amendment. When we talk about ratification, you need three-fourths. So legislators in three-fourths of the states, they have to ratify this amendment, and that would be roughly 38 states. Or each state can call a special ratifying convention, so that an amendment in that purpose would need two-thirds or three-fourths of those conventions to approve it. A while back, we had a current event talking a little bit about the ERA and what happened to that, and it fell one vote short here, one state short. They had 37 out of the 38. So you've got to have the right numbers. It's really what it comes down to. There are other ways that you can talk about proposing or ratifying amendments to change the Constitution. You can do some things informally, and that can happen when we have government leaders, for the most part, or citizens that fill in the details of government on the day-to-day or year-to-year basis, and they may kind of expand certain powers. Congress can also pass laws that have enlarged or clarified some of the different constitutional provisions. Presidents, they have taken actions to kind of add to their powers to the Constitution. When we talk about presidential succession, when we look at like the 25th Amendment, uh, that was something that was clarified, but sometimes when we have events that happen to our president, so if we're talking about the death of William Henry Harrison, or if we're talking about the long presidential term of FDR, these are some things that we need to kind of look at when we talk about how long we want a president and who we want to fulfill the role of president if they would happen to leave office. When we talk about the Supreme Court, they've kind of expanded some of their constitutional powers with the idea of judicial review. And this goes back really to the kind of the earliest days of the Supreme Court. Sometimes the court will also play an active role in shaping policy, and you can have what we call judicial activism. And if we go back and we take a look at some of the different courts we've had in U.S. history, like the Warren Court in the 1960s, where the court, for the most part, had many different rulings that expanded certain powers of the court. So when we talk about the Miranda case or the Gideon case, for the most part, that expands the court and it's kind of leverage. You can also have times when the courts kind of have a hands-off policy. We call it judicial restraint, meaning that they allow the legislative branch and executive branch to kind of do a little more directing as far as policy is concerned. Okay, we're going to talk about the importance of state constitutions. The big thing about state constitutions is that they do create the structure of state government. They also establish the different types of powers for the local governments. So if we're talking about clarifying the powers of like our county governments, or if we're talking about the localities, so when we talk about in Nebraska, like your city government or village boards or such, even going down the townships, all that's kind of clarified within the state constitution. It also talks about separation of power among the three branches. It might contain a Bill of Rights. It also regulates the way the state and local governments can raise and spend money. It might be directed by the Constitution that um, the government can't be deficit spending, okay, meaning that they have to keep a balanced budget. You could also look at the establishment of independent state agencies or boards or commissions. So, when we talk about public power in Nebraska, or if we talk about other utilities in the terms of maybe water boards and things of that nature, all that's going to be coming out of the state constitution. All right, we've finished chapter 3. Congratulations and thank you very much.